William Jefferson Clinton, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully...
This is our time, he said. Let us embrace it. The man from Arkansas fulfills his dream to become President of the United States.
And will to the...
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, reporting tonight from Washington.
Good evening. You've probably heard it said before today, the world's most powerful nation conducts its democracy in such a civilized way that it is almost magical. It is, by definition, very simple. The Constitution requires only that an incoming president swear in 35 words to faithfully execute his office and defend the Constitution. But it's hardly ever been that simple. Today's inauguration of Bill Clinton was brimming with ceremony and celebration. It was a beautiful, cool winter day when President Bush and President-elect Clinton arrived on the western side of the Capitol building.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President-elect William Jefferson Clinton.
The choir was from Little Rock, Arkansas. The Marine Band has been here since Thomas Jefferson. Marilyn Horne, the great mezzo-soprano, friend of Bill's, sang about cultural diversity.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Hail to the new chief, the 42nd President of the United States.
We're getting ready to do it now. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States of America, William Jefferson Clinton.
We know we have to face hard truths and take strong steps, but we have not done so. Instead, we have drifted, and that drifting has eroded our resources, fractured our economy, and shaken our confidence. There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America. And so today we pledge an end to the era of deadlock and drift, and a new season of American renewal has begun. It will not be easy. It will require sacrifice. But it can be done, and done fairly. Not choosing sacrifice for its own sake, but for our own sake. We must provide for our nation the way a family provides for its children. From this joyful mountaintop of celebration, we hear a call to service in the valley. We have heard the trumpets. We have changed the guard. And now, each in our own way, and with God's help, we must answer the call. Thank you, and God bless you all.
The writer and poet Maya Angelou, also raised in Arkansas, had been asked to write an inaugural poem.
Here, on the pulse of this new day, you may have the grace to look up and out and into your sister's eyes and into your brother's face, your country, and say simply, very simply, with hope, good morning.
Once again, in the spirit of democracy, power is handed from one man to another in a peaceful and orderly fashion. That's a taste of it up on the Capitol Hill today. For days now, George Bush has deliberately stayed out of the public eye. No photo ops at cabinet meetings, no final big speech to his staff. Nothing to interfere with a week that really belongs not to the old president, but to the new. ABC's Britt Hume tonight on the changing of the guard.
The biggest day of his political life began for Bill Clinton and his family, and his running mate and his, in church, at a black church here in Washington, where the music and the words moved him to tears.
In His presence, I know there is joy.
Later, as he and his family left Blair House, they were running late. This was a day when the constitutionally mandated noon swearing in would not wait, and Clinton seemed, for a moment at least, anxious. Across the street at the White House, George Bush had spent part of his last hours as president taking a reflective walk on the White House South grounds and visiting one last time the Oval Office, where he had left the traditional note to his successor. This may have been a painful day for him, but he seemed determined not to show it as he greeted the Clintons. Clinton seemed almost to trip over the dog Millie, but the family's meeting was otherwise smooth. Mr. Bush was asked what he had said in that note to Clinton.
Hey, listen, confidential letter. But I'd like to take this opportunity to wish him all the best and Godspeed.
By now, a huge throng had gathered under bright sunshine to witness the day's ceremonies, which began, as always, with the stately procession carrying both the president and president-elect to Capitol Hill. At the Capitol, Clinton, reaching always to touch to reach everyone around him, was led through the building. The new president's address was devoted to the need to change what George Bush had left him, but he took time nonetheless to acknowledge Mr. Bush.
On behalf of our nation, I salute my predecessor, President Bush, for his half-century of service to America.
The standing ovation that drew from the politicians of both parties on the platform made it the biggest applause line in the speech. It was a highly thematic speech in which the words change or renewal appeared 17 times and set for Clinton ambitious goals.
We must invest more in our own people, in their jobs, and in their future, and at the same time cut our massive debt. And we must do so in a world in which we must compete for every opportunity.
Afterward, Mr. Clinton, as is customary, bid Mr. Bush farewell as the now former president began his journey back to Texas. It is likely to be Mr. Bush's last ride on the government aircraft that had been for his use only. At the traditional lunch with leaders of Congress, the new president received a framed color photograph of his just completed swearing in, proof that Congress can get things done fast when it wants to. The Clintons and Gore's first view of the inaugural parade was from the Capitol steps, where they watched it start. When the Clintons joined the parade in a limousine, the huge crowds along their route plainly hoped they would get out of it often. They finally did get out during the final 4 blocks and walked the rest of the way. The new president this time resisting any urge he might have felt to shake hands with everyone. All new presidents promised change, but Bill Clinton, more than most, made change the centerpiece of his election. The throngs gathered here this week to celebrate are testament to the power of that message. The expectations of these people and the belief that Bill Clinton can meet them are at once his blessing and his burden. Britt Hume, ABC News, the White House.
Thank you, Britt. In a moment, we'll go back to President Clinton's inaugural speech as our broadcast continues from Washington.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, brought to you by Tylenol PM.
Well, the inaugural speech always gets a lot of attention. We suspect the media get a lot more worked up over these things than most other Americans do. There's going to be an awful lot of second guessing for the next couple of days about the impact and the eloquence of Mr. Clinton's inaugural address. Will it turn out to be memorable? ABC's Jeff Greenfield was watching and inevitably comparing.
My fellow citizens,
If Bill Clinton's first presidential speech had a familiar ring, it was clearly by design. The man who said his life in politics was inspired by his meeting with John Kennedy echoed JFK's 1961 inaugural in tone and in substance.
Let the word go forth from this time and place that the torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans.
I challenge a new generation of young Americans to a season of service.
Let us begin.
Let us begin anew with energy and hope.
At times, he even seemed to be answering Kennedy across the generations.
Now the trumpet summons us again.
We have heard the trumpets. We have changed the guard.
And throughout his inaugural, Clinton echoed the now familiar style of Kennedy's speech.
Let us never negotiate out of fear. but let us never fear to negotiate.
Though we march to the music of our time, our mission is timeless.
But if the memory of Kennedy dominated most of the speech, there was another figure lurking over Bill Clinton's shoulder, H. Ross Perot. In the most distinctive and personal section of the inaugural, Clinton was at pains to show that he shared Perot's vision of a capital populated by too much ego, vanity, and selfishness.
Powerful people maneuver for position and worry endlessly about who is in and who is out, who is up and who is down, forgetting those people whose toil and sweat sends us here and pays our way.
And, perhaps because his transition has been beset by charges that he has too many Washington insiders around him, there was this.
Let us resolve to reform our politics so that power and privilege no longer shout down the voice of the people. Let us give this capital back to the people to whom it belongs.
The themes of renewal and sacrifice and hope are common to almost all inaugurals, but the heavy Kennedy echo in Mr. Clinton's first presidential address suggests that in matters of formal rhetoric, the new president is still looking for his own voice. Jeff Greenfield, ABC News, Washington.
Well, with us all day here has been David Brinkley, watching what's going on. You have some impression.
I do, Peter. It was Oscar Wilde who said, "Nothing succeeds like excess." Well, when it comes to excess, we're pretty good at it. In Ronald Reagan's inaugural, it was decided in one of the men's clubs in Washington to make a cheesecake to send to his inaugural party. Several restaurant chefs were invited to work on it. They fell to work with such energy and enthusiasm that the cake kept growing and growing. When finished, it weighed 3,742 pounds. So heavy, nobody could lift it, and they couldn't move it into Reagan's party because it was too big to go through the door. Excessive, yes, but they enjoyed it, and this country has plenty of cheese. Maybe the Clinton inaugural parade was excessive. It was the biggest and longest ever, ran for hours. But a lot of young people sold donuts and washed cars to raise money to come to Washington and march down Pennsylvania playing trombones while everybody in their hometowns watched. So what's excessive? Peter?
Certainly, David. Thanks. Enjoyed your company. When we continue from Washington, the White House in transition. Who is in charge here? While the inaugural parade was still rolling along down Pennsylvania Avenue, President Bush arrived back home in Houston. Used to be Air Force One, it is now Air Force Two.
Well, this is the first minute of the beginning of our new life, and I can't think of any place better to start than right here where we began our political life, Houston, Texas.
While the handoff between the two men, President Bush and President Clinton, went smoothly and even graciously, there were a few awkward moments at the White House today. Here's ABC's Bill Greenwood.
As a moving van arrived with the Clinton family's personal effects and President Bush's dog Ranger was being chauffeured away, the White House was virtually deserted.
Time to move along.
But Republicans were not about to surrender the building until high noon.
It's still our shop for another 45 minutes.
Still try to find someone in charge, even at noon when Democrats tried to take over.
May we have an ID? We're supposed to be cleared as staff, and they haven't let us in yet.
When George Bush left office, about 500 White House staff members left with him. And because the Clinton team was not ready with replacements for all of them, volunteers were called in to keep the government going.
The Republicans didn't give up their offices until the last minute, and we're coming in to help out.
When President Clinton finally arrived at the White House himself, he seemed less concerned about his staff than his stuff, hoping everything made it in one piece. Bill Greenwood, ABC News, Washington.
As one of his last official acts as president, Mr. Bush this morning sent Congress a summation of why he ordered 3 attacks on Iraq in the last 7 days. Saddam Hussein is now President Clinton's problem. This afternoon, the Senate confirmed the top members of President Clinton's foreign policy team, Les Aspin as Defense Secretary and Warren Christopher as the Secretary of State. Here's ABC's John McCarthy.
While the nation was focused on the inauguration, a rapid transition was underway at the Pentagon. A quick carpet cleaning in the office of the Secretary of Defense, a change of nameplates outside the door. Though Defense Secretary Cheney said his goodbyes yesterday, President Bush, concerned that there be no lapse in running the Pentagon, ordered Cheney to stay in office an extra 4 hours today. This gave the new Defense Secretary, Les Aspin, time to be officially confirmed by the Senate and sworn in. Before dawn this morning, Brent Scowcroft, the departing National Security Advisor, went to Blair House to brief Bill Clinton in detail about the trouble spots that have demanded so much attention during this transition. There was no fighting today in the skies of Iraq, but at the UN, officials were already preparing to test Saddam Hussein's peace offering to America's new president. The UN filed flight plans for 70 weapons inspectors to return to Iraq tomorrow. In Somalia, where the U.S. still has more than 20,000 troops, an American soldier was wounded today by gunfire. And around Haiti, the U.S. Coast Guard and Navy are trying to prevent people from fleeing their country because they believe Bill Clinton might let them come to America. Even before the celebration was over this afternoon, President Clinton was interrupted by his new Secretary of State. It appeared that the weight of all the problems overseas was already settling onto the new president's shoulders. John McWethy, ABC News, Washington.
And overseas in Bosnia-Herzegovina, Serbian leaders have voted yes on a United Nations peace plan, the idea of carving up Bosnia into 10 separate ethnic enclaves. It's just a first step. Now they have to work out the map, and there is still no ceasefire. We'll have more of the day's news in a moment when our broadcast continues from Washington. Briefly today, some of the other news in Michigan. Word that Dr. Jack Kevorkian has helped a 9th patient commit suicide, a 53-year-old man who was suffering from cancer. Last month, Michigan passed a law making it illegal to assist in a suicide, but the law doesn't go into effect until the end of March. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrials lost 14 points today to close at 32.41, and the trading was heavy. The actress Audrey Hepburn has died at her home in Switzerland. She had been suffering from colon cancer. She was only 63. Ms. Hepburn has left a significant legacy, both on the screen and off. Here's ABC's Morton Dean.
The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
I think she's got it.
Audrey Hepburn really had it. That voice, that look. A combination of sophistication and innocence. In Funny Face, in Sabrina, in Breakfast at Tiffany's. It was a voice and a look that brought her fame and fortune. And it also brought her an Oscar in her first American film at the age of 24, Roman Holiday. As a child, she was moved from Belgium to Holland to escape the Nazi onslaught. She didn't. She suffered from malnutrition. And that's when she learned to care about children. She was to become a goodwill ambassador for UNICEF, traveling to troubled places around the world, including most recently to Somalia.
If wars must be fought, then at the very least, children should be protected from their worst effects.
Audrey Hepburn was to receive her second Oscar later this year, a special one, for her efforts to help children. Morton Dean, ABC News, New York.
When we continue from Washington, what the people in the crowds were saying today. Finally, from us this evening, all this talk about renewal and hope from the new president. You can bet that a lot of political observers will say we've heard that kind of talk before. But in the crowds today, there were a lot of people saying maybe this time it will be different. Here's ABC's Jim Wooten.
Of all the many thousands who gathered on the mall, consider Norma Stewart and why she was there today.
It's very important. It's the first time I'm witnessing the changing of the guard. Yes.
Norma Stewart, born in Belize, just became a citizen. A new American come to see a new president and hear his promise of a new beginning for the country.
Gave me hope.
She's catching on fast.
We need hope. We have to live.
That was the word on the mall today, hope.
A little hope. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
A little hope.
It's a fragile concept at best, but it was hale and hearty in this crowd packed with believers, among whom skepticism and doubt were unwelcome strangers.
Tell you what, I'm a Watergate baby. I watched Nixon resign when I was 10 years old. I've been cynical about politics all my life, and it feels great.
Because hope is in us all at all times, and it's been submerged, but it just had to bubble up this time.
And consider Jenny Rucker, too. Hasn't seen an inauguration in nearly 50 years. Came from Denver to see Mr. Clinton's.
He generates energy. And see, we're all sort of, oh, well, we can't do any better. But this guy says, hey, we can do better. And he's young enough.
Young enough to persuade her and so many others on the mall today that it's not going to be business as usual. And the key to that faith, a four-letter word.
Hope. I can't say he's going to be like the rest of them. I just got to hold on to it. The hope that he has promised us, and I'm keep on praying that this was going to come true.
His hopes were fulfilled today.
And will to the best of my ability.
And will to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Jim Wooten, ABC News, Washington.
That's our report on World News Tonight. I'm Peter Jennings. Nightline later on the new president. Tomorrow, Mr. Clinton opens the White House doors to the public for a few hours, and we'll report on his first full day in office. We'll see you then. Good night.